were saying the social media has shaped people's approach to the real world. It's shaped their approach to debate. I mean, we can definitely see that in the political sphere. Do you think that there is a rising tide of anti-intellectualism because of social media?
Yeah, of course. Not even social media, but the internet.
The internet.
You see, throughout human history, we had something that between me and myself, called sacred spaces. Mm-hmm. Sacred spaces were physical spaces, mm-hmm. where only certain people were given access. Mm. And of course, one prime example of a sacred space is a book. Mm-hmm. A book was a space where only certain people were given access. Mm. And a television program, or a movie, or in earlier times, hieroglyphs and religious rituals and so on. There were always filters. There was always a gatekeeper, someone or a group or a committee or someone's who looked at your qualifications, your background, your motivation, and your emotions, your stability, or I don't know whatever the criterion or criteria may have been, and then they granted you access or denied you access to a privileged space. Internet was the first time that all space was created equal, and there was no longer privileged space. Pennsylvania State University, Richard Grannon, Sam Vaknin, and Sam Vaknin's Goldfish all had identical space, identical access, and the ability to put up content that was indistinguishable in the sense that it used the same characters, same images, same. This egalitarianism of space, spatial egalitarianism, was automatically translated in people's minds to what I call malignant egalitarianism. For me, malignant egalitarianism is the counterfactual, the wrong belief or conviction that all people are created equal as far as their access to the truth and to knowledge. All people are created equal in some other senses. There is no debate about this. All people are created equal as far as their right to live, right to life. Well, maybe with my exception. All people are created equal as far as access to opportunities. They should have equal access to opportunities, etc., etc. We all know the list of uncontested equalities. But it is absolutely untrue that all people are created equal either in their capacity to acquire knowledge and verify the truth, or in their willingness to do so.
Sure.
It's utterly untrue. Why did we develop this mass delusion? And we did. Why did we do that? So first of all, there is, as I said, the issue of space. Everyone has equal space. And so if I have the same space like a university, automatically it might be translated or interpreted by some people that I'm as authoritative as the university,
right,
as erudite as the university, with the same background, the same history, and so on and so forth. I identify four clusters of pathologies which led to the development of malignant egalitarianism. But before I go into these four clusters, I want to say why malignant egalitarianism is at all important. Because it would spell the end of the species if it is not over, and this I'm saying judiciously. It would spell the end of a species if it's not tackled, and tackled soon. In the absence of expertise, in the absence of truth, and in the absence of knowledge, we will not survive as a species. Nothing differentiated us from any other extinct species. We are weaker, we are smaller. We are badly designed in many respects. For example, we don't have fur to protect us from the weather. We are not well constructed for survival. Only thing, of course, that stands between us and annihilation is truth, knowledge, the ability to discern them, to generate them, to accumulate them, and to pass them on. The only thing. If we give this up, there is no relative advantage, and we will go extinct. It's extremely
100% agree. 100% agree.
And so, I think there are 4 pathologies that led to this situation. The first one is, of course, narcissism. And narcissism has a few strands. You'll have to bear with me because I prepared this presentation and because I have no interest to hear what you have to say. So, I'm being honest here. Isn't this commendable? I mean,
The honesty is commendable.
yes. I mean, shouldn't I be praised for my honesty? However sadistic it may be. Pleasure. So, narcissism has a few strands. First of all, there is what I call identicalness. They believe that we are all identical. Then there is omniscience. Omniscience got a boost. Omniscience is a pathological defense in narcissism. It's the narcissist's belief that he knows everything, that you cannot teach him anything, and therefore narcissists have resistance to learning because they perceive learning as narcissistic injury, as a challenge to their omniscience. This used to be the preserve of narcissists. Most people would have said, yes, I really don't know many things. Yes, please teach me. I would like to learn. What changed that is the internet. Because suddenly everyone knows everything because everyone has access to Wikipedia. That's it.
Yeah.
Now everyone is omniscient with a single click of the mouse or even with a tap of the screen. You want to know what happened in 1066, it's a tap away. You want to, so in which sense, for example, a professor of history is superior to you? He knows what happened in 1066, and so could you. You're both of equal knowledge, only you chose not to realize this potential, but it exists.
Right.
And it doesn't require a lot of work. It's very easy.
Yeah.
So you're omniscient by definition.
Yeah.
Omniscient by definition. Then there is the issue of confusing information with knowledge. Information is unstructured raw. When you take it and process it, it becomes knowledge. The internet encourages us to think that information is knowledge. Everything comes in huge dollops of goo and you know, and we tend to confuse this with knowledge. So if you know what happened in 1066, you have information. You don't have knowledge at all. You don't know the context. You don't know the true history, the background, the decision making, nothing. You know the information. So we confuse information with knowledge. Now this is again something that narcissists do. What narcissists do in order to impress you, they accumulate a lot of anecdotes, a lot of anecdotal knowledge, information. They accumulate a lot of bits of information and then they throw it at you. And they overwhelm you. They paralyze you with this river of endless. And you say, wow, this guy is amazing. He's so knowledgeable. He's not. He's a trash bin of anecdotes and
just spewing it
factoids. And so spewing it out. The next thing, which again has to, remember there are 4 clusters. So the next thing that has to do with narcissism is attention span deficit. We have a deficit of attention span owing to technologies that encourage us not to pay attention, but also it's a narcissistic trait. Because think for a minute, if you're omniscient, why should you pay attention? So paying attention is by itself narcissistic injury. It means you are less than perfect. You have to invest an effort in order to become perfect. So you're less than perfect. It's a narcissistic challenge. And so attention span problems have a lot to do with rising narcissism. And then there's dichotomous thinking, also known as splitting. Dichotomous thinking means black and white, evil and good, right and wrong, enemy and friend, and so on. Dividing the world along two axes. And this, of course, doesn't encourage sensitivity to nuances and subtleties and so on. And it's also a narcissistic thing. It also contributes to the feeling that you know everything, and you know everything as well as anyone else. Because dichotomous thinking doesn't require training, doesn't require, it's pretty instinctual, or even I would say reflexive. And so if you engage in it, you're as good as anyone else. And so it, again, equates you with everyone else. Finally, there is a kind of tendency for shortcuts and shorthand, like cliff notes. The world has become one giant repository of cliff notes. I even saw services that tell you, why read the books? We will send you summaries of the books, and then you can read 4 books a day. We can send you summaries. I saw services with my own eyes. I mean, There are apps that send you resumes of films, so you don't need to see the film. And so on. So shortcuts and shorthand connected to everything else I said, attention span, this, that. But this has to do with something even deeper, and that is the perception of complexity as narcissistic injury. If it's complex, it's against you. If it's complex, it's an insult. In other words, everything that is complex is perceived as a direct attack on your omnipotence, omniscience, godlike perfection, and so on and so forth. For the very simple reason that the vast majority of people cannot perceive, cannot understand complexity. It's for them, it's a challenge. They feel challenged by the very fact that it's complex. So they resent complexity. The whole thing I just mentioned, identicalness and so, is actually a rejection of complexity in favor of one-dimensionality. That's Marcuse's one-dimensional man. In favor of one-dimensionality, reducing the world to a single dimension to allow everyone to feel godlike. Because if you're not godlike, you're a zero. Dichotomous thinking.
Yes.
Either you're God or you're zero. Either hero or zero. Nothing in between. So how to become a hero? How to become a God? Reduce the universe. Don't enhance yourself. Reduce the universe. And that ties into pathological envy. I told you the pathological envy is not about emulating or imitating and becoming better. It's about reducing and destroying the object of frustration.
Right.
In this case, the object of frustration is the whole world. I resent the fact that I cannot understand 99% of what's happening around me. I don't understand physics, I don't understand politics, I don't understand nothing. And so I have two choices. I have a choice between two alternatives. I can say, listen, I don't understand politics and physics and biology and chemistry, so I must be an idiot. Which is true in the vast majority of cases. Or you can say, well, actually, it's not so complex. I mean, this is all bullshit. It's all in Wikipedia. Who needs to know all this? And in other words, reduce the world, reduce it, simplify it, spread it out, make it one-dimensional, and then you feel at home. There's no complexity anymore. So this is narcissism and rejection of complexity. The second cluster is what I call unmooring. Unmooring is the most fascinating core of malignant egalitarianism. Mooring, which was the state before the internet, was when you knew where the anchor was. You were sailing in a choppy ocean, but you always knew your course, you knew the stars, you knew the anchor. The anchor was your doctor, the professor, the gatekeepers, the authority figures. The stars were intellectuals, you knew your relative positioning. There was certainty in the world, the certainty of erudition, certainty of learning, the certainty of history, historical precedent, the certainty of authority. There was certainty, and this I call mooring. Don't misunderstand me. Many of these experts were wrong, many authorities got it. It's not the issue, but there was a process to weed out mistakes and errors, and that process was known as a scientific method. So part of the mooring was to trust the process, not necessarily the end results of the process, but the belief that the process in every sphere, in science, in politics, in journalism, that the process will ultimately lead to a good place. Yes, you could have many Nixons, but the system will work. Yes, you could have many mistakes in physics, but there will be an Einstein. Yes, you could have many fake news, but ultimately New York Times will win. I mean, there was some compass. The internet destroyed all this. And now we are unmoored. Unmoored. And again, I identified a few strands. The first is truthiness. The belief that truth is relative. Anything could be true at any given period, in any given place, and dependent on observers. Things are not true or untrue. They are true on condition, or they are true relative to, or they are true supposing. They are true, but. So until the internet, everything was true or false. Now we have a third condition. True, false, possibly true.
I've noticed that idiots love that belief.
Yeah.
They cling to that belief and they'll thrust it in your face proudly. No, it's only true for you. Or just because it's true for you doesn't mean it's true for me. Well, where do we go
By the
from
way,
here?
that goes even for example, you can say the earth is round. Well, you believe that.
Yes.
I mean, we're not talking only about your beliefs about trauma, which could be debated.
Yeah.
Well, looking at your muscles, maybe it's a bad idea. It's, I'm talking about, is the earth round? Does vaccination create autism? I'm talking about scientific facts.
Yeah.
Everything is up for grabs. There's truth, false, and what you choose to be true or not. In other words, truthiness empowers people to decide what is true, even if they have zero qualifications to decide what is true. It's, again, a form of narcissism. The second strand in unmooring is the multiverse. I call it the multiverse delusion. The multiverse delusion is, well, maybe it's not true right here and now, but because everything could be possible somewhere at some time, it is possibly true. So, you understand? I'm not kidding.
It's logic. But it's a perversion of logic. It's like a fake logic.
It's an irrelevant logic. I mean, yes, everything could be. There could be a universe in the infinity of time. There could be a universe where Adolf Hitler will be the world's leading altruist, and it would be Nelson Mandela who opened Auschwitz.
Right.
Absolutely, there could be such a world.
Yeah.
But how is this relevant?
Yeah, it's not relevant.
How is this relevant? We will never have access to this world. We are not sure when it will materialize, let's say in 15 billion years. It's not relevant. Everything, but there is this thing. And so this kind of people, they throw it, I mean, they say, well, maybe it's relevant. Maybe it's true here and now. But it's possible to be true somewhere, sometime. So I call it the multiverse delusion.
Right.
Then there is a third strand, which is paranoia and distrust. Distrust of mainstream media, of government, of experts, of scientists, of commentators, of everyone is assumed to have an ulterior motives, a conspiracy, hidden agenda. So there is utter distrust. Now, distrust of authority is a very healthy thing. Nothing wrong with it. But only on condition that you agree on a protocol or a methodology to replace one authority with another. If you discard the authority baby with the protocol bathwater, you are left with no possibility to establish authority, or with a universal challenge that says no one and nothing is ever an authority.
Yeah.
Which is the current state. Currently, if you talk to people, and by the way, what I'm describing is by now universal.
Yeah.
10 years ago it was fringe groups, now it's universal.
Yeah.
Today, if you talk to people, they don't say, listen, the New York Times sucks. It has agenda, it has hidden motive, it has profit motive, it has this, it has that. But I believe that if we establish another paper and it will be designed this way, it will be okay. No, they're not saying this. They are saying you can't trust any media. Or they are saying no scientists, all scientists fake.
That's right.
I mean, they don't allow for authority to emerge at all. And now, authority is critical for truth and knowledge. Critical. It is a logical fallacy to accept truth and knowledge only by virtue of authority. But there is no possibility to have truth and knowledge without authority.
Right.
None. You go to a doctor, he is an authority. Otherwise, he will not get treated properly. And indeed, that's one of the major battlefields.
Yeah.
Where millions and tens of millions of people are challenging doctors and telling them, this is your version and this is my version. I can treat cancer with herbs.
And crystals.
And crystals. And you can treat cancer with chemotherapy. That's what you say. Maybe. I mean,
it's equally valid.
It's equally valid. So, and this is a result of... the next issue is disintermediation. Disintermediation is a general process where people got rid of gatekeepers. So the result is that last year 3.2 million books were published on Amazon Kindle alone. 3.2 million.
Wow.
Until the year 1900, the cumulative number of books published in human history was 10 million. In a single year, 3.2 million were published on Amazon Kindle.
All of them excellent, well written.
They are no gatekeepers. And because they're not gatekeepers, no editors, no readers, no proofreaders, no nothing. Because they're no gatekeepers, we are flooded. And this creates a problem known as discoverability. How do you discover the pearl among the swine? How do you separate trash from good content? How? And because we just agreed that there is no authority, there's no way to do that. Discoverability became the major problem, even in academia. Major problem. There are fake academic journals, fake academic conferences, fake books, books with fake content, books with nonsense, nonsense masquerading as books. I mean, we are drowning in a swamp of trash and, excuse the expression, shit. Drowning. And there are pearls, absolutely there are pearls, but they are missed because discoverability. So the combination of disintermediation and discoverability problem is threatening our ability to make any kind of progress. Even in science it's difficult to make progress because you have millions of papers that are not vetted, not peer-reviewed, not nothing. And you don't quite know always where, so of course they are still surviving gatekeepers, but they are challenged. They are challenged even, for example, by academics. So you have a massive movement of academics called the open access movement that challenges established peer-reviewed academic journals.
Really?
And we're talking about huge, I mean, I would say about half of all academics in the world belong to open access movement.
So they don't want peer review?
They want everything on the internet, free, mostly without peer review. I mean, it's a massive challenge to, of course, within open access, there are still those who support gatekeeping.
Sure.
But even that is not the same gatekeeping. It's very lax gatekeeping. Why? Because of publish or perish. The more you publish, the more your tenure is secure. So all this leads to money. All this leads to money. Amazon Kindle is because of money. People publish books to make money. In academia, they want open access for money. It's all leads to money. Money has replaced all other values. This is and here is the thing. Money is the great equalizer.
Right.
If you have $1 million and I have $1 million, we're absolutely equal. We are not equal in the realm of knowledge, but we are equal as far as money. And if money is the only value, we are equal, absolutely equal. And money had become the only value. And why had money become the only value? Because it's the great equalizer. It didn't go like people think. People think that money corrupted institutions and generated technology. No. Rising narcissism corrupted institutions, generated technology, and elevated money to be the main value.
Right.
Exactly opposite of the process. It was rising narcissism that created all this. In the 1950s, for example, there were also many rich people. Money was revered. But Einstein was Einstein. He was the rock star of that period. People valued learning and erudition far more than money. Why? There was money. Why they didn't? Because narcissism was not on the ascent.
Right.
And so now that it's on the ascent, it transformed our values, our technologies, and everything else. The next cluster is halo effect. The halo effect is simply that if you're a celebrity in one field, then automatically you're assumed to possess privileged access to information and authoritative knowledge in other totally unrelated fields. So you see actors interviewed on politics, politicians interviewed on literature, authors interviewed on science, scientists interviewed on philosophy, and so on and so forth. That means I'm not just saying that you shouldn't interview footballers or chefs. I'm also saying that you shouldn't interview a biology Nobel Prize winner on ethics. He's utterly unqualified to discuss ethics, as is Maradona.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
So the halo effect is poisonous and toxic, not only when it is applied to non-intellectuals, actually much more so when it's applied to intellectuals, because they are assumed to possess universal thinking tools, and they don't.
Right.
They don't, because of specialization. Today, there are no universal geniuses. Everyone is, very focused. Of course, the halo effect is intimately connected with the celebrity culture, and the thing is that in the past, we had very limited number of celebrities, and when you wanted knowledge and information, there were celebrities of knowledge and information. So you had Albert Einstein, Carl Sagan, and so on. Today, tech empowerment, the power of technology, made everyone an instant celebrity if they choose to. We have two examples.
Yeah.
Instant celebrity. So celebrity, which used to be an obstacle, a hurdle, you had to earn celebrity, today is much less of a problem. If you are a girl and you have enough bananas, you can be a celebrity. Much less of an obstacle. And that creates an interesting paradox. On the face of it, you can say, what a girl with a banana can teach me, and this is horrible, and But wait a minute. She has 16.8 million followers. She can shape their minds. She can affect them. This gives her inordinate power. Should I not listen to her by virtue of this power? In other words, it's a very confusing situation.
Yeah.
On the one hand, I agree that she doesn't have the prerequisite qualifications, background, but on the other hand, she has something else.
Yeah.
She has power.
Yeah.
And we have always listened to men of power. We have listened to Julius Caesar and to Napoleon and so on. She has as many citizens as Napoleon did.
Sure.
So shouldn't I listen to, and she looks much better. So shouldn't I listen to her?
They call them social influencers, don't they?
Yeah, social influencers. And so there is a dissonance even in me.
Yes.
Even in me there's a dissonance. When I see that this girl says something about life, which she never does, but if one day she will say something about life, I am not very likely to ignore her completely, as I should have, because she's a teenager, not a very well-developed teenager, playing with bananas. So I should have said, well, many chimpanzees do that, and I should not read her post, but I will. I know I will.
Yeah.
Because I would say to myself, 17 other million other people are exposed to this post. What does it mean?
Yeah.
So it creates a dissonance. Tech empowerment creates power clusters, redistributes power. It never redistributes knowledge or information or intellect or anything else, but it redistributes power. Now, ultimately, it's all about survival. We need to identify powerful people, because if we misidentify them, we end up in Auschwitz. So we need to know who is powerful and who is not. That perhaps is the most critical piece of information. You don't need to know what happened in 1066 in Hastings. You really don't. But you absolutely need to know, absolutely, what the chief of the police has in mind about you. If he's about to raid your apartment or not. I mean, this is relevant piece of information. A woman, a girl who has 17 million followers, I need to know what she's thinking or not thinking and so on. So there is this issue of empowerment via tech, which redistributes power and renders people interesting or relevant because of their power. And of course, this automatically creates an anti-establishment wave.
Yeah.
Because if power is distributed, then establishment cannot exist. Establishment is a monopoly of power. It's a concentration of power. Establishments throughout history monopolize power and then reified power via military, via police, via the courts. So this was, and now if power is, for example, look at the desperate attempts of the State Department to control WikiLeaks in the time of Hillary Clinton. Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. They couldn't do anything. The most powerful power monopoly on earth, the United States government, a mammoth, a juggernaut, could not control a few retarded hackers who jumped from server to server across. Power has really shifted. So, and that destroys establishment. And now I'm coming to your opening statement, which was when you were much younger. So your opening statement was, you asked me, are people against intellectuals? Are they against? Well, yes, because in this wave, anti-establishment wave, everyone who was identified with establishment was carried away. And intellectuals and experts, at least from the 18th century, not before, but from the 18th, I would even say 17th century, intellectuals and creative types like musicians and artists, and all of them identified themselves with the establishment. This is a major break in human history. What happened? Until the 17th century, creative people and intellectuals were dissidents. They never identified with the establishment. They were prosecuted by the church and persecuted by earthly powers. And I mean, they were always the revolutionary. Suddenly in the 17th century, there was a new system of patronage. If you were Mozart, you received a monthly stipend from the Potentate of Bavaria. If you were Herschel, if you were Jean-Jacques Rousseau, the powers that be started to finance you. It is from the 17th century that there was an enormous break where intellectuals and experts compromised themselves. And they became employees of the establishment or protégés of the establishment. And of course, the greatest example is the atomic bomb, where a group of hundreds of physicists compromised themselves and worked for the government in creating a weapon of total mass destruction. So when people started this anti-establishment wave, empowered by technology and redistributing power, they swept everyone who compromised himself away. And I must admit that all intellectuals and all experts are beholden to the establishment. Beholden. They work in establishments like universities, which are heavily financed by government. I mean, they are part of the establishment. If you get rid of the swamp in Washington, if you get rid of politicians, you will get rid of intellectuals. You will get rid of experts.
Right.
Because they are part of this. And this is what's happening. The attack is not necessarily on intellect, or because the people who are attacking intellectuals pretend to be intellectuals.
Yeah.
It's not that they're saying, we don't want to be intellectual, we want to be idiots. They say, no,
I'm an intellectual.
I'm an intellectual.
Just as good as you.
Just good as you, and the only thing between us is that I'm independent, and you are paid by the mainstream media or by university or by, but I'm independent. We're same level, but I'm independent. So it's not that people are anti-intellect or anti-intellectualism. That's absolutely wrong. I read it many times, but it's completely wrong. This is still the ideal. People want to be intellectual. They dream about it. They claim that they are, but not. But the new ideal is independence, anti-establishment. Similarly with expertise. People don't say, we don't want experts. They say, first of all, I'm as much an expert as you are because I have access to the biggest library in human history, to the internet. With a few clicks of a mouse, I can know anything I want about anything, so I'm as much an expert as you. But the difference between us is that I'm independent. In other words, this is what José Ortega y Gasset called in the 1930s the revolt of the masses. It is not about it's about regaining power, recapturing power. So it's a power game. And so when this newfound intellectuals and so-called experts, self-styled experts, when they came on the scene, deposing the old establishment, first deposing the old establishment symbolically on the internet. You couldn't talk if you were really I remember that when real professors tried to contribute to Wikipedia, they were chased away. Oh, I remember that. Chased away. So internet became expert intellectual free zone. And to this very day you find no one, no intellectual. I mean, show me one forum where some professor is, I mean, gone. Even forums of professors, for professors, died. I used to be a member of many of them, they all died. So first they liberated the internet. The masses liberated the internet and made it independent zone. But then they liberated government. Duterte, Erdogan, Trump, Bolsonaro, they're all revolt of the masses. So they liberated government now. But now they're faced with a unique situation. Who will certify? There is an issue of certification. Who will certify that they're experts? How can they prove that they're intellectuals? So what they did, they found areas of knowledge where you can become instant expert. For example, if I ask you to be an expert or an intellectual in nuclear physics or astrophysics, it might take you a while. And really don't be offended, but I doubt very much if you'll make it.
I am not offended.
Right. But if I ask you to become an expert on football, it's like your month. If you're very slow. And if I ask you to become an expert on astrology, a week. Suddenly, fields of knowledge which allowed you to claim verifiably and truthfully that you're an expert within a month or a week came to prominence. If you go to discussion boards of astrology, you will find 3 million people, 5 million people, and I'm exaggerating not. If you go to discussion boards of nuclear physics, you'd be lucky to find 800. People go to these boards of astrology. Why? Because each and every single one of them claims to be an expert. I'm making natal charts. I discovered this. The conjunction of Uranus with I don't know who. I mean, they're all experts. And you know what? When you analyze what they're writing, they are experts. Because astrology requires a week.
Right.
They are real experts.
Yeah.
And people who are experts on British football, they are real experts. They will tell you what Chelsea did and what Manchester did and United Manchester. And they really know what they're talking about. So suddenly these fields, pseudoscience, occult, sports, they became prominent. No one talks anymore about physics because these fields allow you to feel good, allow you to feel like real experts. And the second thing that happened is political correctness and what I call malignant intolerance. You see, if you declare yourself an intellectual and you declare yourself an expert, the first thing you have to do is to find a field where you can reliably claim it and others can confirm that you are, because they also reliably became experts. So you choose idiotic fields like the ones I mentioned. Fields that are easy to master and immediately you can become. But the second thing you must do, you must suppress speech. Because if you don't suppress speech, real experts from real fields may challenge you. So suddenly it's bad taste, not bon ton, or even I would say illegal behavior, sort of me, to say to someone you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Or you're an idiot.
Yeah.
Or this is nonsense. How do you talk? It's not the, how do, listen, here's the links, and they send you links to other idiots.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you see?
Blog posts and YouTube videos.
Yes.
Garbage.
You see? And and not only that, they're arguing with you and sending you irrelevant links, but you are immediately outcast by the entire community.
Oh yes, you'll be dogpiled.
Yes, dogpiled. And by the entire, I'm trying not to use it because I don't know how many. You'll be thrown out, you'll be ostracized, dogpiled, as you said, because you did not suppress your speech. Yeah. So we have political correctness. And the equivalence of political correctness online, etiquette, netiquette.
Netiquette.
It's called netiquette.
I've never heard that.
Right, netiquette.
Okay.
If you read manifestos of netiquette, they are absolutely authoritarian, dictatorial, speech-suppressing texts.
Right.
Pretending to be free speech, ultra-extreme free speech manifestos. Utterly Orwellian, newspeak. Utterly Orwellian texts. Number one, we believe in unbridled, unmitigated free speech. Anyone can say what they want. Number two, never call anyone, never tell anyone that he is not right. Try to see the other's point of view. Number three, and so on.
Yeah.
I mean, so suppression of speech became critical factor together with the rise of pseudosciences and occult nonsense and so on. And this is catering to the gullibility and naivete of people online. And this is the cluster C, halo effect. Halo effect used to be limited to real celebrities and real intellectuals, but now everyone can become celebrity and expert. And here is what I'm trying to, here's the two salient points that I made. One, it is not an anti-intellectual campaign.
Okay.
It is actually pro-intellectual. Everyone wants to be intellectual.
Okay.
They try to become it. And the second point, the people who claim to be experts in many of these fields are real experts.
Right.
Only they chose such fields in which you can become an expert in a day.
Yeah.
They reduce the bar. It's like in most universities in the United States, including all Ivy League universities, they reduce requirements and exams by 50%. They reduce the level of...
I knew they reduced it a lot. I didn't know it was 50%.
50% according to objective... Harvard, for example...
To keep the students going in, to keep pumping them out the other end, they just brought the standards down.
No, because there were lawsuits. This level allows only white rich kids to enter. They must be reduced to allow blacks and Asians and Nigerians and I don't know what else, and snails and octopus to enter the university and so on. So
we'll edit that bit.
everyone is reducing standards as a deliberate policy in order to avoid being accused of political incorrectness, suppressing speech, and so on.
Elitism. You don't want to be accused of
elitism. Another thing that's happening, many of these pseudosciences and so on are becoming legitimate academic fields. 2 universities in the United States, 2 states in the United States. I think one of them was Kansas. 2 states in the United States now accept military experience as academic credit.
Oh, okay.
So if you sweated in Iraq and swallowed sand, that would count, as far as I remember, for 20 credits. I'm not kidding. Of course, there is the widely reported phenomena of athletic achievements in lieu of academic achievements.
Yes, yeah.
Widely reported.
Yeah.
But this is backdoor policy. There is front door policy where sewing, cooking, sports like hobby, not professional sports, and so on, are considered academic disciplines. Driving car. There are numerous community colleges where learning to drive a car is an academic credit. So what is happening is not that academia as it used to presents a kind of cloud to which you aspire, but they go down to the people and cater to their need to feel special, unique, experts, intellectuals.
And this is not for cynical monetary gain because they want to get more people through the door. What you're saying is that...
To some extent, but no, I don't think it's that.
It's actually pressure.
Catering to the ethos, to the emerging ethos of we are all equal, we all have what to contribute, everything we say is meaningful, we can all be whatever we want to be, etc., etc., etc.
So it makes me nauseous
Yes.
when people say that, because I always think, well, what if you had a child with a brain tumour and you were saying, well, all brain surgeons are completely equal, everybody has a right to be a brain? You wouldn't. It's total fucking hypocrisy.
And if you think this doesn't happen, you're wrong. You can go online and find groups of mothers who argue with brain surgeons what should be the right procedure. They say the brain surgeon was wrong, he should have used this procedure, that procedure. I know of a healer in Philippines, Brazil, who would do this. I mean, yes, brain surgeon authority is also challenged. Absolutely also challenged. I told you the story of my authority on inverted narcissism, somatic narcissism, and cerebral narcissism challenged. Why I'm saying that I'm an authority on this subject, perhaps the authority, for the simple reason that I invented these concepts. But I'm challenged daily.
I've had people come to me and say that you don't understand inverted narcissism.
Yes.
And they tell me, this is why he doesn't understand it. I'm like, he invented that. So.
Yes, I'm challenged daily on this. Some of these people know that I invented, but...
That's bizarre.
Yes, but I'm still challenged. But I'm mentioning this as an anecdote, because here is a clear case where I can claim authority.
Yeah.
I mean, if I say I'm authority in physics, some people agree, not agree. By the way, people who have no training in physics, a vast majority of people who commented on the Grannon field part of the interview, if not all of them, had no background in physics whatsoever. Yet they felt absolutely
entitled to wade in,
to argue that it's wrong, it's right. I mean, it's utterly sick and dangerous, because if we conduct education by poll, P-O-L-L, if we conduct education democratic, education is not democratic, it's authoritative, it's authoritarian, it's dictatorial. What we are trying to do, we are trying to take the tenets of democracy, one man, one vote, everyone is equal. By the way, this I never understood as well. Why is everyone equal in democracy? I don't understand it. I think it's an utterly nauseating, mind-fucking sick concept, in my view. Not everyone is equal, and not everyone should have equal vote. Absolutely not. But let's assume for a minute. They adopted this tenet in education and in online and so on. Everything has been democratized in the worst sense of the word. And so the last thing is really about social contest, not context, but contest. It's all about relative positioning, as closing the circle. It's all about relative positioning. If I am not as much as an expert or intellectual as you, I envy you. It's pathological envy. My relative positioning is inferior, superior. Everything is a power play. Everything is competition. Everything is about winning and losing, and so on. Even coinage, which had nothing to do in the past with winning or losing, is now converted into winning or losing. So elections, of course, are about winning and losing, but so is education, so is expertise, so is parenting. So I mean, everything is about winning and losing. And this is the capitalist ethos. So we had a very malignant confluence of what we call capitalist democracy. The worst tenets of capitalism and the worst tenets of democracy were put together, coalesced, and so on. So we have relative positioning. Then there is a question of wish to belong. I did a study, I think it was 7 years ago. I did a study a few years ago of the reptilian movement. These are people, some of them doctors of medicine, some of them professors of, or at least one, professor of physics. Some of them professors of theology and philosophy, and I have names in mind, I'm just not mentioning them. And they believe, sincerely, that Earth has been invaded by reptilians and they took over. That personalities like Elizabeth II is actually a reptile. Only these reptilians have the ability to shapeshift and present as human. But they're not human. If someone cuts Elizabeth II in two, the reptilian, I mean, they will see a reptile.
I see.
And they have a whole list. Obama is reptile. Elizabeth II is reptile. I don't remember the others.
You said there's professors on this list?
Yes.
They
highly
believe.
educated people, professors of theology, of philosophy, of physicists, and so on. Middle-class people, businessmen, I mean, not by any definition human trash or retards, I mean, a representative class. And this reptilian movement numbers, how many people do you think? I mean, they're talking about real reptiles, it's not a metaphor. Reptiles invaded the earth a long time ago.
Elizabeth II is a
And by the way, they have a council, committee of reptiles, underground. And they manage the world.
That makes sense because it's nice and cool underground.
Nice and cool, and they manage the world and so on. How many people do you think are members of this?
I don't know, 200 nutters.
200 what? 200 in absolute terms or 200,000?
No, 200 total people who believe that...
Several million.
Million?
Several million.
Believe that Obama is a shape-shifting reptile.
Reptile, and Elizabeth II. I understand Obama, but Elizabeth II. So, several million. They have conferences and congresses, literature, vast literature. By the way, go online. Vast literature. They debate, they have forums. They debate the intricacies, because there are many types of reptiles. And also, is it an earthly reptile? Is it a terrestrial reptile? Or is it a reptile that we would identify as reptile, but actually is not reptile? So there's already camps arguing about the reptilianness of the reptiles. And now they're talking about exobiology. So is the reptile representative of... I'm completely serious.
Where's the evidence? I mean, they're doing this based on...
There's a fuck about it. I'm completely serious. And by the way, some of these highly educated people spend hours every day on these forums and arguing. Now, I ask myself a very interesting question. Why? There is no doubt in my mind that a combined professor of theology and philosophy, one of the brightest minds I know him personally, by the way, there was little doubt in my mind that he doesn't believe that Elizabeth II is a reptile. Although he does believe in other conspiracy theories, like 9/11 and so, but I thought that was a step too far, a bridge too far. I asked why. Suddenly it occurred to me. It's not the reptiles. It's belonging. It's a group. It's a community.
Yeah.
It's sharing something. Being welcomed, being accepted. Your eccentricity, your insanity, being accepted. It's about belonging. The need to belong overrules everything. If the condition to belong is to accept that Elizabeth II is a reptile, I mean, fuck Elizabeth II, she's a reptile.
Yeah, yeah.
It's belonging, it's crucial.
Yeah.
This is what creates cults. And this is what creates other equally insane beliefs, like that a Jew, illiterate carpenter, died and rose from the dead, which is about as insane as believing that Elizabeth II is a reptile. Yeah? So, belonging. Belonging would go a long way toward explaining malignant egalitarianism. Because when you are equal to everyone else, by definition you belong. You can, for example, communicate with them. If you're not equal to me, why would I communicate with you? I would fend you off, I would fuck off. Who are you? But if you force me to accept that you're equal to me, you have a right to my time. You have a right to communicate with me. You belong with me in the same group. This is coerced belonging.
Yeah.
Malignant egalitarianism is coerced belonging. They force me to belong to their group. And if I refuse, I'm punished severely. Which I think is my story online, by the way. I never cater to the vanity and so on of people. I always say my social media is retard-free zone. I never ever play this game. You're equal to me. You are not equal to me. No one is equal to me. Statistically, there are 6 people equal to me in the world. And I don't know where they are. Probably one of them is Indian. So, no one is equal to me. And I'm not playing this game that anyone is equal to me. And because I refuse to play this game, I'm possibly one of the most hated figures online. Possibly. I think that's a great explanation why I am.
Yeah.
I don't allow them to belong. And I refuse to belong to the same. It's like the famous saying by Groucho Marx. I would not want to belong to a club that will accept me.
Right.
Right? I would not want to belong to a club where these people are members. You know, and there's no bigger snub and humiliation than this. And of course, everyone in the age of egalitarian, malignant egalitarian, it's the biggest possible attack. And there's a final point. Suppressing speech requires you to suppress memory, suppress history, suppress timelines. Because if you have memory, and if you have history, and if you have timelines, contradictions might occur. For example, if we're arguing, and then I tell you, but listen, A preceded B, I can undermine your argument. But if A and B are the same plane temporally, I can never use chronology to undermine you. Again, a personal experience. I had been blamed for plagiarizing you, Ross Rosenberg, H.G. Tudor, and so on. People have, I mean, we're talking like thousands of people over the years, have written to me that it's ugly and disgusting and reprehensible that I stole ideas from you and from Ross Rosenberg and from H.G. Tudor and from and so on. Many people claimed that I am claiming to be a psychopathic narcissist because I saw that Tudor is selling many books, and that's why I decided. There's only one problem with that. I preceded all of you by 15 years. But of course, on YouTube, on the internet, all texts are created equal. Of course, you can go and see what was the date.
They're all time-stamped, yeah.
They're all time-stamped, but who pays attention to them?
Yeah.
I mean, just watch. It comes like avalanche. I mean, you don't. So everyone is equitemporaneous. Everyone is at the same time. And then, if you dislike Vaknin, you will automatically assume that he stole from Grannon. Of course, if you dislike Grannon, you will assume the opposite.
Versa, yeah.
So, time plays no role. There's no history, no memory, nothing. And I saw this in political argumentation. This, of course, creates also confusion regarding cause and effect. So they would confuse why something happened because they think the effect is the cause. And this is also part of malignant egalitarianism, because if we are all created equal, we are also created equal not only in space, not only in intellect, but also in time. The fact that you are 57, or I'm 57, gives me no advantage over you. Otherwise, we will not be equal.
Yeah.
We cannot be equal if my age gives me some advantage. If my memory gives me, by definition at 57 I have more memory than you, but period, it's defined. So automatically I'm superior to you. This has to be immediately eliminated. I mean, it's a serious threat to malignant egalitarianism. So history itself and memory are eliminated. I think now perhaps it's better, and you can understand better why I consider this a threat to the species.
Absolutely.
What are we without history, without memory? No memory, no identity. Without identity, without knowledge, and without authority to distinguish and discern what is true, what is not. What are we without these things? Chimpanzees.
Yeah.
And not very well equipped chimpanzees. We don't have fur, we don't have muscles, we don't have, badly designed chimpanzees.
Yeah.
We stand no chance whatsoever if we give up these things. And the internet, and now the only question that is in my mind, did we invent the internet in order to give up this? Are we suicidal? Or is it a byproduct, unexpected byproduct, like, So, I don't know.
You're saying it's a major threat to the species because we could lose our sense of objective truth and objective reality altogether.
We could lose truth and reality, information and knowledge, memory and history. Of course, for example, there's no identity without memory. So we could ultimately will lose our sense of identity. If you think this is a theoretical threat, let me refer you to the debates about artificial intelligence. If the species had a very strong sense of identity, they would never have felt threatened by artificial intelligence. If you know who you are, you're never threatened by the other. It is because we have lost over the last 50 years our sense of identity that we no longer know what is human, what is not, what may replace us, what we feel existentially anxious and threatened because we don't have the tools that kept us superior and supreme in the animal kingdom. Our knowledge, our information, our identity, our memory, our history, and the authority to tell us which is which, or at least the authority to design a system to tell us which is which. We lost all this. And we threw it over 50 years. It's the biggest dislocation in human history, ever. Like millions of times worse than the fall of Rome. And I mean, this was bullshit. There's nothing compared to this. And then, of course, we feel threatened by aliens. We have 1 million alien movies suddenly. We feel threatened by zombies.
Zombies and aliens everywhere.
Aliens. We feel threatened by artificial intelligence because we don't know who we are. What is the difference between zombie and human? The core of these movies is what is the difference? Should we feel pity on zombies? Should we kill them? Should we? What is the difference between alien and human? Will aliens be kind to us? So it's all about this. I think the debate raging now, whether artificial intelligence will replace us, or kill us, or destroy us, is because we have no clear core and nucleus and kernel of identity. If we had, we would never be threatened by the other. You see it in nations also. When a nation loses its compass, its identity, its clear identity, it suddenly feels threatened by others, immigrants, invasions, But when it's with a very clear sense of mission and identity and so on, Britain has been in glorious isolation for centuries and never felt threatened. Although if you look at the situation geographically, Britain should have felt very threatened. Because there's nothing to cross the channel. Nothing to cross the channel. And Britain had been invaded more than any other country in Europe.
Massively, yeah.
More than any other country in Europe. But because it had a clear sense of identity and kernel and core, never mind it was delusional, it was imperial, it doesn't matter.
That's okay.
Because it had
works.
this, it never felt threatened. There was a much bigger influx of immigrants in 1900 and after the Raj ended, much bigger. There was no... Today, with much smaller numbers, I mean, suddenly, Brexit and hysteria, because your identity is so all of us as a species have lost our identity. It's no longer completely clear. Who will lead us? Who will teach us? What is true? We have no orientation. It's total disorientation. Total. You go online, I challenge you, I will give you now name of a topic. Go online, tell me what is a reliable source, what is not. You're intelligent, you're well-versed, you're computer literate. I'm just flattering you.
Thank you.
But I'm telling you that you will not be able to succeed to discoverability, to tell me which is
real, which is
real. Now, luckily, I will give you a topic which will not challenge your survival. But what if it were to challenge your survival?
Yeah.
You understand? For example, conspiracy theories are about this exactly. Because if they're true, they challenge your survival. But if they're not true, they're okay.
Yeah.
So, but it's a problem of discoverability. You go online, you don't know to decide. Are they true? Are they not true? What the fuck?
Yeah. You never really know what the quality of the information is. There is a German guy I know who runs a gym, and he claims to be. He was in the German army, and he says he's a National Socialist. And I said to him, well, then you must be very worried about Islamic immigrants coming into the United Kingdom and into Germany. And he said no. He said if the UK has a sense of identity and it is the stronger culture, then it will win and there's nothing that needs to be done. True. But if you're the weaker culture, then you will lose and you deserve to.
True, this is Darwinian,
pure Darwinian,
but I agree,
Darwinian philosophy.
Darwinian. And we are losing our identity.
Yeah.
You can see that, zombies, aliens. I mean, we don't know where we are, where we belong, who are we?
We're disintegrating in a
We're
certain
disintegrating,
sense.
yes.
The whole matrix, the whole simulation seems to be disintegrating.
We're disintegrating. So that's why I said in the previous interviews that I see hope only in artificial intelligence, frankly. Because I think we lost the script. Completely lost the script. And the only thing I have no answer to in my mind, because I'm grandiose, I have answer for everything, but the only thing I have no answer to, did we develop this technology to kill ourselves? To off ourselves, or is this really an unfortunate externality? I mean, byproduct within unforeseen byproduct. I don't know. Sometimes I think it's a former, sometimes the latter. Sometimes I think we, as a species, reach a conclusion that that's it, and it's over, and let's finish it. Sometimes, and sometimes I think because internet is a suicidal medium.
Yes.
Absolutely suicidal. And sometimes I think, no, I mean, we created, and the monster took over, and now we're fucked. I don't know what to decide. If you analyze text on the internet, for example, in support groups and so on, they are utterly pathologized. I mean, people express extreme depression. They are utterly desperate, extreme desperation. Many people say it would be better if everything ended. There's a lot of doomsayers, and I mean, and very, very, very few, even in happy forums like New Moms. You go to New Mom forum. I had the occasion to visit many New Mom forums for reasons we're not going to, and I read consequently thousands of posts, thousands literally, because I spent like months, and listen. Not one happy post. Not one happy post. Wonderful, I'm going to have a child, it's so great. To bring a child to this world, drugs, this, that, vaccination, fuck him up, autism. I don't feel good, I feel this, I feel that, my stomach, my eyes, my head. I mean, not one, no moment of happiness, no joy of anything. New moms. The most happy thing should be.
Maybe it represents a kind of Pandora's box. We open it and it shows us who we are. Maybe it demonstrates some of the software faults that we've got running.
Possibly.
And maybe then it could be a tool for evolution by saying, look, you've got to sort this out, this out, this out. Narcissism, and not just narcissism as it's normally said tritely, the way that you have just delineated it into these different strands, that kind of narcissism, these are real software faults that really have to be
But
dealt
how are you
with.
going to do that without authority, without knowing what is true, what is not, what is knowledge, what is
Can
not?
only be an authority.
So how are we do that's the
It's my
problem.
hostile takeover, my military takeover.
We undermine everything.
Yeah.
We even cannot tell anymore what is true, what is not. That is why people send me emails about inverted narcissism. Can we trust Vaknin? Even if he invented does he have an agenda? Or maybe he invented it, but he doesn't follow the recent developments. So, I mean, utter distrust. I mean, it's total breakdown of communication. Total. And so people become solipsistic. They talk to themselves, they shoot selfies. I told you, selfies are 60% of posts. They talk to themselves, they shoot selfies, they masturbate. It's all basically self-contained, self-sufficient activities where you have zero dependence on other people. You talk about intimacy. Are you kidding me? It's a suicidal act to be intimate. It gives you so much power. The woman who would be intimate with you gives you so much power. I mean, she has to be insane to do that in this world.
Yeah.
It's about power. The redistribution of power through the internet was a rebellion against monopoly of power. But what it created, because there was a limited amount of power. When it was concentrated in the hands of the few, they were very powerful. But when you take the same power and distribute it over 5 billion, it's very, very little power. Everyone has tiny, tiny power and feels actually disempowered.
Yes. Yeah.
And this is I think, another massive misunderstanding about the internet. There is a perception that the internet empowers. Internet empowers technologically, but disempowers personally and emotionally. You feel disempowered.
Yeah.
You feel swept by toxic sludge that you can no longer control or breathe in or breathe out. I mean, you feel drowning. Most people describe internet experience as drowning.
Yeah.
And so it disempowers because everyone got a tiny, tiny morsel of power, you know. And it empowers you to act. So this creates actually decompensation, acting out. The experience of the internet is decompensating, is disintegrating. And then you act out. When you act out, you have powerful tools. So your acting out is amplified.
Yeah.
And then because it's amplified, it has toxic effect on million other people,
Yes,
and they feel disempowered.
Yes.
And that's a network effect,
Yeah.
in effect. Not optimistic at all, very bad.
Let us stop there.
Yeah, let us stop here before I disembowel and